I think that they just naturally like to help people because they didn't have much when they were coming up. Neither one of them. Didn't have two nickels to rub together. And I think when you grow up that way, it comes natural to want to help other people. They still taught me that, giving back is a part of this deal. To whom much is given, much is expected, that kind of deal. But I'm certain that this organization gives back to people in a way that is very much in keeping with the people they've been their whole lives. Hanging out with him was the funnest stuff ever. That belly laugh, it was quite infectious, and everybody in the room would be laughing.
I have met and talked to guys whose hands are as big as a dinner plate. And when I start talking about Coach Royal, they get tears in their eyes. He was obviously quite inspirational.
Coach was a quiet, soft-spoken, and humble man.
His friendship was as legendary as his coaching.
I believe this was something that you said to your father and to your mom. I don't know if we could just get you to read that if you could.
Nobody can say that they do not remember the first time they met Darrell Royal. Growing up in our family was a fast-paced and very rich experience. We traveled all over the 48 United States and even to Canada before settling in Austin in 1957.
There were really only two things going on in Austin, and one was the Capitol, and the other was the University of Texas. And so the university was just woven into everybody's life.
DKR brought a winning season and the rain after a 7-year drought. He was born for football, and UT was football heaven.
He was iconic in Texas because of the winning seasons that he put together. I think he won the Southwest Conference 11 times in 20 years. But he also won 3 national championships, 1963, 69, and 70.
When I was maybe 11 years old, I was walking next to DKR down the sidewalk on Congress Avenue. Everyone wanted to say hello and chat. He gave them his total attention and treated them with great respect and cheerfulness.
After he retired, you'd go to any event with him, and if he wanted to get out, he'd keep his eyes on the floor just so he could get out of the room and not be unkind to people. But this was all before his decline.
Mrs. Royal was such an integral part of what he did in his life forever.
Well, my mother, she held down the fort.
Yeah.
That's basically it. They were a good partnership from the very beginning.
There's no doubt that his accomplishments relied on the knowledge that she had everything else buttoned down.
At some point, he was having such memory problems that she moved him to his own room where he would get constant care, and he was not happy.
It was like somebody was coming in and stealing a little piece of his ability every few days, every few weeks. But I anguished just as much for my grandmother as I did for him, because I knew that wasn't easy on either side.
Families face, upon diagnosis, challenges on many levels. And the average time of at least Alzheimer's from diagnosis to death is generally between 10 and 12 years.
It was tough on all of us, mostly her.
Yeah. Well, he had a lot of visitors.
Yeah, that was lucky.
Yeah, that was a good
lucky. Let's face it, not everybody that goes through that has people lining up at the door to want to go have a meal with him, go to a ball game.
Yeah.
And he did.
People would talk from time to time about, we should get Darrell and Edith involved in Alzheimer's or neurodegenerative research. And so one day a friend just approached Mrs. Royal after Coach had really shown significant decline and said, we'd like to be able to use his name. We think we can do some important things. And she said, okay, let me talk to him about it. And she went and visited with him and said, what do you think? And he said, it works.
There was an inquiry with the legislature on the topic of Alzheimer's, and my grandparents both came down and testified.
We had Mrs. Royal, Coach Royal, and Lance Armstrong and Matthew McConaughey. And so that was the day that Mrs. Royal made the announcement of the DKR fund, and Coach had a mic in front of him, and he just leaned forward and he said,
I feel like that I'm home when I visit Austin, Texas.
Senators, tears, flowing. It was a really touching moment. So as they were exiting the Capitol, somebody hollered, "Let's see your horns." And Coach Royal put his horns up, and that went all over the world in the news the next day. And it was a wonderful day. About a year ago, we started a study called CLEATS. The researchers study aging male and female college athletes.
The CLEATS project has been designed to answer a fundamental question. That is, we need to know the risks and benefits of athletic participation amongst men and women in the United States. I believe that athletics is one of the real virtues of life. That's my personal bias. And what we're trying to do is get scientific energy around those very valid questions.
And the state of Texas has funded almost $70 million in Coach Royal's name that has been distributed to Texas medical schools. So we're all of the volunteers and the workers we're very proud and very happy that we can memorialize Coach Royal in such an honorable way. And I would be remiss if I didn't give Edith, or Mama Edie, as most of the people call her that love her, if I didn't give her credit for having been co-captain of the team.
Proud doesn't begin to cover it. Love doesn't seem like enough. It just makes me cry about everything my Father has given. Thank you, Mom. Nobody on this planet has better parents.